Monterey is a legacy of music, a legacy of talent, and so much sound that goes on in creativity. Tell me about the position, how you're meeting all of the folks here on the festival, and what are some of your ideas and plans in terms of direction?
First of all, it's understanding the weight and the gravity of sort of inheriting this rich tradition and legacy. So when you have such a wealth of tradition, you sort of move that in measured steps. So it's the whole idea of taking this amazing blueprint. You make tweaks here and there, and of course expand and advance. But yeah, it's measured steps, man. It's respecting all of the hard work that both Tim Jackson and Mr. Jimmy Lyons did before.
Well, they've done a fantastic job over the years, but it's 2023 now, and so we're looking at some of these things through your eyes and through new visions, and just sound wise and sonic wise. Just would like to know, because we know what kind of background you come from. It's orchestral. You're a director, you're a composer and a conductor, so you automatically know the inside soul of a musician.
Yeah, it's the synchronization of, sort of what I've done in the last 30 years. It's like, how do we amalgamate all of these rich histories and these art forms that really have a confluence that goes back, to the spiritual. And then out of that, we know the story. The family tree sort of starts to build. So how do you begin to have these, of course, filtered through the language and the history of jazz, but how do you have these jazz adjacent art forms that now become, a part of this rich history? And so that's what I've done, with my own orchestra, Soulful Symphony. It's nothing for us in one show, a repository to go from jazz to gospel to blues to hip hop. It's sort of that whole confluence. And the language is, those touch points are the thread in all of those different art forms. And it's not a barrier of entry. For if you play it, you know it. It's the
Right.
sort of the same textures sonically, sort of all of the same language.
Well, you talk about roots and branches of this music, and I think John Clayton's a root, and look at this beautiful brother that we have here as a wonderful branch of the music, man. Gerald, you've done some wonderful things, and I've watched your career span, and just the way that you're creating your music and inviting in these other textures and sounds is very rich, man. Tell me how you've been a big part of the Monterey Jazz Festivals, too, in terms of the educational portion.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I feel very fortunate, yes, to have been a part of this community and this family for all my life. Getting to be a little kid and seeing these grown men showing each other so much love, at sound checks and rehearsals and on bandstands, and really in service of the music of a greater purpose. And I think it falls directly into what Maestro Darin was talking about with, that there are no lines that separate this, right? It's all from the same source. It's really all downstream from the blues, right? From that original testifying of joys and sorrows, of truth. So to be amongst so many people with that same vision of a good community of people who love one another, who are in service of good music. I'm really honored to be a part of that, and to be here and do that at Monterey, where it's it comes with the name. It's as he said, it's a long tradition of that. So
No doubt.
yeah, definitely grateful and honored.
Well, one of the key words there is love, and with this music that we purvey, I mean that's really huge. But also the blending of cultures, the blending of these different sounds and textures, and Darin, I know you've done that quite a bit with a lot of the things that you've produced.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to someone else about how, we've sort of, two things in America, we've commodified our arts. So, sort of jazz and gospel are sort of on the margins of this constellation. But the other thing is we've gotten away from, which the festival still sort of does well, is the idea of ritual and how we create culture together. Like at all times, we're creating culture. It's not something that sort of is rained down on us, which we think as a consumer, you get a product and the jazz artists are the specialists, and you sort of sit back and receive. So we lose that ritual aspect of how we're creating this together. And that's the beauty of jazz. It's this call and response that happens, audience, vendors, just the whole ecosystem of a festival like this sort of informs, this whole ritual and this communal aspect. And that's the human engagement part. And like, that's at the very center of what we all should be striving to do. And out of that comes, our value. It informs our values. It informs what we, hold dear in terms of how we celebrate, affirm, and explore each other through the music.
Well, it's so important, when people think about this music that we call jazz, a lot of it is nostalgia for them. But we have to mix and blend that with culture, with futurism, and really with right now, with politics, with of course the vast amount of love that comes from all of these great musicians and creativity, man. And I'm really looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, it's like Albert Murray said, it's like how we stylize art is how we stylize the human experience.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that's what this is all about. Like, as Gerald said, it comes out of that. It comes out of the struggle. It comes out the optimism, the hope, and all of that informs the music. That's at the very bedrock of what we do. Is we're stylizing human experience, the full spectrum of our experiences. And that's the beauty of all of it.
The full spectrum. We live it every day. We love it every day. We play it every day, and we play who we are. And then there are a lot of great artists like Gerald who have this vision of feeling and putting out what's happening now through the music. And I know you have that vision as well.
Yeah, and that vision is immediate, and it's happening in real time.
Every day.
Like, very significant. And if you're intentional, like I was just telling him, heard him in the arena with Charles, and it's just immediacy, the immediacy of his experience in that moment. If you're really aware of what's happening and how he's communicating at that moment, you're not going to get that moment from it ever again. It's everything about this day has informed that moment.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty of it.
Well, I mean, Gerald, with the way that you play piano, I mean, very shortly after touching the keys or putting down a chord or whatever you're playing, you immediately pull all of these people right in the palm of your hand. So it's your responsibility to kind of give them, this message and sway them and to deliver a lot of these great sounds. And you take such good care of them when you play.
I appreciate that. I mean, that's what we strive to do. I think the game plan is honesty. You just want to express yourself with truth and integrity. Take care of the music. Listen to the musicians that you're creating with. Listen to the room, to the audience. Like you said, it's it's an ecosystem. So trying to live harmoniously in that ecosystem, that's the gig. So I show up every day and try. But that's all I can do, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the beauty also of being here and being sort of the rudder for all of this, you strip it down. I'm a jazz guy, right? So I ran into Sullivan and Sean's on, right now, and it's Gerald. I mean, I'm not removed as, a lot of people think I'm removed from the tradition, but, it's such a collegial brotherhood in it. First thing Sullivan said when he walked in, he was like, "Oh man, I heard Soulful Symphony and Song in a Strange Land when I was 10." It's that thing. It's like, my mom, let me call my mom real quick. It's that kind of thing. So that whole confluence of like we were talking about, amalgamating tradition, then to see, how we're all collaborating in a time, as my grandfather, who was a preacher, in a time such as this, that we sort of been bequeathed this amazing tradition. So that's been great too, just to be able to get on the ground and see, some of the cats that I've sort of helped to inspire in a way, and then they've inspired me as well.
Thank you guys so much for being here. Gerald, Brother Darin, looking forward to great things. You're watching Just Jazz TV.